Hey, what's up, you guys? This is Chivas Status. My name is Rigo, and I'm here with Danny, and we're here to talk about the the two games that happened um, after our last video. It was a win against Atlas and a loss against Cruz Azul. What did you think about the performance in those games, and what do you have? What are your feelings after those two games, Danny?
So complete polar opposite games, honestly. One was a absolutely amazing performance against Atlas, which is to be expected. A guy like Alexis Vega completely changes up the face of Chivas. Even not playing as a 10, he's that creative force because he just gets so far up the pitch with the ball and provides chances for his teammates. Provide space that other teammates don't give themselves. So I mean, he's really that game changer in both games, I think. And Cruz Azul was just a poor performance, man. It was really sad to see how Chapito gave up that penalty,
Mhm.
and then the team just crumbled after that. It was just really sad to see.
So yeah, I think it kind of shows the level that Chivas really is right now. Like we go up against a team like Atlas and they're a little bit more motivated to win that game and we know that we're superior and you can see that. The players look a lot more confident and they're able to create chances and score goals. I thought the goal for the Macias play was amazing. The play for the Macias goal was amazing. I messed up my words there. And then the Conejito goal was probably the best of the season. You know, one of the best goals of the season in general, the best for Chivas for sure. And you're seeing poor performances from the same players, I think. And then against Cruz Azul, I think Bucetic's biggest mistake was returning to that Molina midfield. Like why do you insist on Molina? I know that Gallito was out because of COVID and Pollo was out because of COVID, so he had to bring back Tiba and he had to bring back. He didn't really have to. My thing is, he didn't have to bring back Molina though. He had to bring back Tiba because who else is he gonna put? But you don't have to bring back Molina. You know what I mean? Why don't
Yeah.
you do? That was a perfect opportunity to do something different with the midfield. Like, wouldn't you like to see a midfield with Dieter, Beltran, and Angulo? Like those three
Yeah.
could do a job in the midfield, right? Don't you think?
Yeah, I've been hearing this for a while now, specifically from you already know God. He said it a lot and for a long time. Molina's upsides don't make up for his downsides,
Mm-hmm.
and his defensive performances don't give out such big numbers and such amazing like to the viewer, it doesn't give you that satisfaction like, man, this guy did his job, to the point where his lackluster performance all over the pitch is acceptable. You have guys like Kante who at Leicester, I know this is a bigger scale, but like guys like that, their defensive performances at one point was enough to keep them on the pitch. Makalele for years made a career of that. These guys are able to put in defensive numbers
Mm-hmm.
and be able to stay on the pitch, but Molina doesn't give you that. Gallito does in a sense, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, as I said, it's smaller scales. These players aren't world class like that, but still, defensive performances have to be good enough to warrant a start over guys like Beltran, Dieter, and now Angulo.
And Molina, maybe one day he had the ability to do that, but not anymore. At his age, he's like 31, I think. He's had several injuries in his career. It just doesn't make sense to have him be the DM. You know what I mean? Because Angulo was there, but Angulo has the function of carrying the ball forward a lot more. And
Hmm.
he left Molina by himself a lot of times, which that was on purpose. They
Yeah,
want to leave Molina there because they think somehow that he has the capacity to get the ball, turn around, and find a pass. He can't do that. He's lost the ball so many times. But
yeah.
then Beltran comes in, and I don't know what you thought about Beltran against Cruz Azul. To me, he was terrible. He lost the ball a bunch of times. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what happened. I guess, I don't know. The game was already lost, and so he just didn't. He just wasn't ready. I don't know what happened, but I'm worried
Well,
about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, Beltran has little confidence. His coach has no confidence in him, and then the time that he does get is stoppage time. Like
Mhm.
it's already the time that's dead in the game. The game's already done. What can a guy like that really do? His forwards are really aren't making runs to give him an opportunity to give those passes. I mean, his connections with the midfield, he hasn't really gotten into the game because he's not coming off from. He's not one of those dynamic players that can just change the game like nothing. With a quick little burst of speed. He's a guy that controls the game, and throughout a long period of time in the game, he can give you a good performance. But in one performance that we see of 3 minutes of against Atlas and against Cruz Azul, maybe a little more, but still, you can't expect
It's not
much from
enough.
a guy with that little confidence given in him.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the game in general. Like, I thought Chivas was slightly superior in the first half, despite not having much of the ball. But I do think that we created the better chances. I don't remember if this was in the first half or in the second half, but I remember a good play between Ponce and I think Antuna, and
Mhm.
then they crossed it into Macias, and he missed a clear chance. And then I remember when late in the game, Trophies came in, and Trophies is heavily criticized. And for some things that they criticize him for, I understand and I agree. Like, for example, he came into the season slightly overweight, and he hasn't been getting minutes for some reason. He's not completely innocent. That's what I'm gonna say. But I think that some of this criticism is completely unwarranted because he came in and he created a couple chances. One of them I remember clearly, a great pass into Chicote. Chicote shoots it and misses because that's what I think he was trying to do is shoot it. But then it ends up looking like a cross to Iramir and he doesn't reach it and it's not a goal. So it's like, what else can he do? He comes in for 15 minutes and he creates a goal scoring opportunity. What else do you want from him? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, what can you really expect from trophies in the little minutes? Just like Beltran,
Yeah.
he creates chances. It's still not enough. What else can you want? What else can
Yeah.
you ask for a guy that's literally there for that? As you said, you can agree with the criticism because I still think, I'm not one to talk, but the guy, he's on the chubby side. It's
Yeah.
sad to see that he hasn't gotten back to that physical level that he was at one point. He was able to do so much better when he was at that point, and he was still able to keep getting on the field as a starter at points too, because he was able to keep up with the rest of the team, and he just had something different in him.
That
Warranted,
that
they do have a point when complaining about certain things, but then to say, oh well, look, he came in for 5 minutes and he did absolutely nothing. What do you want him to do?
exactly. And I don't sorry, I don't think that like his weight right now, if he is overweight, I don't think that would even be an issue if I think they're just kind of using that as an excuse to not play him. I think that the institution, the people in charge are tired of trophies for some reason and they're just looking to sell him on. Um but this isn't the trophies episode, so we're going to talk about other players. Like, I think Vega had a really good game. I think he was creating things. This was probably one of the games where he created the most, and unfortunately, the rest of the team was not on par. And I want to ask you about Macias though, because Vega, he had a great game, but Macias, he's just been missing left and right. Do you think it's time for him to hit the bench?
It might be time for him to hit the bench, if it means bringing up guys that have like they're screaming out for an opportunity. But that's
Mm-hmm.
not what's going to happen. It's not going to happen. He's going to play the same old guys. If he benches him, who's he going to put in? We all know the name of who he's going to put in. We don't want to say it, but it's going to be him.
Yeah,
He's going
yeah.
to put him in no matter how old, no matter how completely useless the guy is going to be on the pitch. He's going
Yeah.
to put him in, and probably with Vega's going to make him look as good as he makes Macias look right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
So,
if he was to bench him, move up a guy like Vega, move him up to the nine position. Maybe Vega could do decently there. I mean, he did his dirt at Toluca. He was able to get goals. he did move a little bit towards the left, but that's what he tends to do, you know. But if you move in players from the sub-20 like Organista, I don't know if you've seen the past few games that he's
Yeah.
played. Guy's absolutely tearing it up.
The
He's
thing is,
absolutely tearing it up.
the thing is, Chivas have talent in every level, but we just seem to always have a terrible coaching staff, and like we make the worst decisions when it comes to selling players and buying players, and it's just unfortunate because they never get it right. They never get it right. And so, yeah, that's what we thought about the two games. The chance for top four is over. The
Sadly.
most, yeah, which to be honest, I knew it was going to happen. Early on, I knew it wasn't going to happen, I mean, but it might be good for us to have that challenge of being in repechaje.
Not only
And
that, rhythm. For a team like Chivas, rhythm is important.
yeah,
Rhythm is really important for a group of all Mexican players because I can honestly say that Mexican players are some of the most unconcentrated and less dedicated players on earth, and it's a big reason as to why in Europe they suffer so much. I don't want to categorize our people. I mean we're Mexican. But I mean it's just an honest analysis. Mexican players tend to be very unconcentrated, and you can tell just by looking at Chivas and La
yeah,
Selección.
it's a perfect example. Like La Selección, they'll play against Holland, they'll play a great game, and then the next game they'll play and against weaker opposition, and they won't do as good. And you see the same thing in the World Cup. They have a great game against Germany, then they'll screw the pooch against Sweden.
Yeah.
Typical of Chivas, typical of El Tri. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of that. And I think it's like the Mexican psychology, kind of like they, if they win a game, they think they're on top, and so then they stop doing what they did to get there, and so then they fuck up. I hate it. I'm so tired of it. I
Yeah, and
wish we
a
could
lot of
change it.
people, a lot of people used to criticize, and they're still criticizing Chicharito. Granted, I'm one of those people that are
Hmm.
criticizing Chicharito now, but that's one thing Chicharito never did. Chicharito would be the same against Spain as he was against Guatemala. This guy would perform, he would deliver, he would do everything in his power to give El Tri the win. He was one of those guys that just was always there for La Selección.
Too bad
And
not anymore. Too bad not anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
too bad not anymore. But I mean, he's up there in age, and honestly, he's lost his head. The guy went
Yeah.
from confident and centered on his work and his craft to completely off the rails with his life coach Dreyfus, who's a complete clown and not concentrated on what he needs to do.
Dude,
Yeah.
it's so messed up. I wonder if he's this is kind of a side note, but I wonder if he's regretting moving to California because like it's not looking good for him. But
I don't,
anyway,
I don't
yeah, I
know,
don't
man.
know.
It's,
We'll see.
it's easy to just block
We'll
out the
see how
criticism
long those
going like
dollars
this.
last. I wonder if he's smart with his money. I highly doubt it.
Well, I mean,
Anyway.
he's making a lot of commercials. I don't know if you've seen that. He's
Yeah,
making
huh. Is
commercials.
it what is it? Modelo, I think. Whatever. Anyway. Oh no, Bud Light. Bud Light. Yeah. Yeah, dude. I don't understand why these players make any commercials related to alcoholic drinks. It makes no sense to me. It's
Yeah.
like it doesn't look good. But anyway, we wanted to touch on this topic about potentially, like, what would you feel, listener or viewer? What would you feel if Chivas one day changed their policy, expanded it a little bit to what it was originally? This is an idea I've been throwing around on Twitter. Like, what if we move from just Mexicans to just Belgians, French players, and Mexicans? I think that it would make, because Chivas struggle to find smart coaches and smart boards, right? Like Pelaez is not any smarter than most of the other board members in soccer.
Just a
Um,
great negotiator.
yes, yeah, but like he is finding it hard to form a consistent team. And granted, it's early, right? It's early. Like this is a good squad of players. Chivas currently have a good squad of players, and I think that if Pelaez is patient and if he's smart, this this squad could do relatively interesting things, but how sustainable is that? It's not very sustainable because we become dependent on key players and then they sell them, right? So I'm proposing this idea of hiring, of expanding that policy and forming relationships with French clubs and Belgian clubs, because those two countries have great leagues. They're developing players at high rates, good players.
Yeah.
That if Chivas bought some of them, it would immediately improve their squad,
I
right?
mean, just the region. I think I read somewhere that there's a certain radius of not even 100 miles in Paris, just the city of Paris, that has produced, I think, uh, hundreds upon hundreds of the players that are debuting in the French league,
Hmm.
and I think 10 of those players have made it into the best clubs in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's just it that is just incredible to me. Like
The
just that small radius. Like it'd be amazing to see these French players and Belgian players be eligible for a club like Chivas. And I mean, we're not going to get the
yeah,
Camavingas of the
exactly.
world, but I mean, we're gonna get some pretty decent players. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Like the depth in France is insane. They have like four national teams worth of great world class talent. But and Chivas wouldn't get that world class talent. Obviously, we might maybe if a player is older, we might be able to entice a name player. But I'm
Yeah.
talking the players that play in Ligue 1 and they play in teams that are like top 10. You could get maybe one or two of those players every once in a while, and
Yeah.
Belgium the same. And like they could offer solutions for our squads that we can't find at the moment and we haven't been able to find for decades. Like imagine trying to form a competitive squad for next season right now. We need What position do you think we need? We need definitely a better CDM than Molina in my opinion.
Hmm.
And we need what other position do you think we need?
I think we would need a CDM like you said. I think left wing is pretty covered by Vega, but depending on JJ leaving, we would
Hmm.
either need a striker or a left winger.
Yeah, okay, let's say left winger, right? Uh right now we have good youngsters that could potentially come up and do something, but they're not first team proven, right?
Hmm.
And they aren't going to come in and immediately improve the squad. You could find a player that would meet that criteria in the French league, and if he like these players, they earn pretty good money over there, but Chivas has the money to entice some of those players
Yeah.
and bring them in and immediately improve the squad for next season.
Yeah,
Because
and Chivas
yeah,
is
go ahead.
big enough of a squad, a big enough of a team, to be able to even sometimes get some of this talent that eventually goes on to be pretty big. I mean, let's not forget the heights that Chicharito himself reached. Like he got to Manchester
Mhm.
United. Chivas has sent guys like Salcido, Massa to PSV Eindhoven. I mean, these are teams that would love to be getting some talent from the Mexican league. It's just they don't produce enough and they don't get enough players into that tier of football, and with players maybe coming in from France at a younger age, maybe like 15, 16, they want to get some minutes. Hey, a team like Chivas would be absolutely perfect for that. If they're producing numbers and performances better than a guy like Molina, better than
Yeah.
sometimes JJ Macias, who seems to be thinking that he is so top class that he's not aiming to put in a good performance now, but instead save it for Europe. Leave to Europe already. We can
Yeah.
have someone else come in if that's the case.
And the thing is, I think that introducing this model would benefit our Mexican players too, because it's less pressure for them too. Like I think, like if you see players like Sendejas, for example, he's scoring goals now. Gael Sandoval, he's scoring goals now. Why do you think they can't do that in Chivas? It's a combination of things. It's bad coaching at Chivas. We typically have bad coaching, but also it's a lot of pressure to be at Chivas and to have to deliver results. And it's
Yeah.
a lot of pressure because And so, like, if you bring in like really good players for the Mexican league standard, if you bring them in, they're gonna be like Mexican players around them are gonna learn from them, and we've seen it in other clubs in Liga MX. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I know this concept that we're talking about is like sacrilege. Like people are gonna hate us potentially for even entertaining the idea of foreigners in Chivas. And trust me, I believe that an all Mexican squad could be consistently competitive and consistently winning titles. But you have to be really, really smart at all levels. You have to be the best youth academy. We aren't the best youth academy. We have to have the best coaching. We don't have the best coaching. We have to have the best sporting directors. We don't have the best sporting directors. And or we have to have the most money. We don't have the most money. So what are we going to do, you guys? Do you guys like I see this team because I've seen this cycle many times. Right now we have a good squad and for some reason we can't deliver the results. So then Pelaez is going to throw it all away and try to build something new again. And then that's going to fail and he's going to throw it away, try to build something new. And then he's going to get fired and somebody else is going to come in and the same thing is going to happen again. And we're just going to be a mediocre club year after year. That's what I can see because I'm just talking about what I saw from 2010 to 2020, right? Like,
Yeah.
we didn't make Liguilla most of the time. That's really bad. That's terrible.
What I've always wondered is how does Athletic Bilbao do it?
And recently they haven't been getting the results. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was actually just searching out because I wanted to see if all their players were actually all Basque. Like, are they
they are
still
still
doing the all
they are
Basque?
still doing that, yeah. And recently they have made mistakes in their board similar to Chivas and they've suffered from it. They've been doing pretty poorly recently. So and they are way better at developing players than we are. So
Yeah.
it's like and
Well, I think
yeah.
it's a country in which a lot of there's a lot of diversity, and
Mhm.
where there's a lot of people coming in from, let's say, from countries like the Middle East and even Africa, in the continent of Africa. People are moving into Spain, and they're able to, they're able to get more players in the Basque region that aren't
Yeah.
just the like they're not just Basque. They're obviously descendant of something else. I don't think Mexico has much of that. Mexico doesn't have that diversity. It
Yeah.
has some, but when has Chivas caught any of that diversity?
Yeah.
I usually see these guys at Pachuca or somewhere else.
Exactly.
Chivas
Exactly.
has a tendency of letting go of so much talent to these other great producing teams. Like Pachuca seems to get everything, and
Yeah.
now even a team like Tijuana seems to be producing at the sub levels. Sub 20 looks great. There's
Mhm.
guys coming out of there that just look amazing.
So we're falling behind on all these things that we really, if we want to keep this Mexican tradition, we should be on top of those levels. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Um, but we're falling behind. Other clubs are catching talent that we're not catching. They're developing them better. They're giving them better opportunities in the first team
yeah,
with a more stable club, less media attention, less hype, less everything that is negative and that allows them to perform better. And so Chivas really they would need to get their shit together in so many different levels that I'm just saying if we're even an incompetent coach would do better if he had these foreigners to pick from. You know what I mean?
yeah.
We see it with like for example Tigres and America. Do you think that their sporting directors are smarter than Chivas' sporting directors? I don't think so. I don't think they particularly know more about soccer, um, but they do have this advantage of being able to find a gap in their squad and easily fill it in with a foreigner, and so then that makes them look smarter because they get more results.
Yeah.
So I don't know, you guys. I have held on to this tradition for a long time, and I used to really pounce on any opportunity to defend it. But I'm seeing this trend on all of the 2010s, they sucked the life out of me because we sucked so bad. And I think Chivas, the biggest part of Chivas' tradition is that we're a winning team. I think that's bigger than this Mexican only policy. What do you think?
El campeonísimo isn't called el mexicanísimo, you know. It's el campeonísimo, you know.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of people are gonna lose their lose a lot of what they had for Chivas, and at that point, if that's all you had for Chivas was because it's an all Mexican team, then I don't know how much you really care about the team like winning and the team doing good,
Uh,
the team enjoying playing out there. Like this team doesn't look like it's known what it was doing. It knows what it's doing since
yeah.
Almeida. Almeida
Yeah.
was able to rile a group of guys up to the point where they believe they can go out there and shoot themselves in the heart with an arrow and they're going to survive it because their pastor is telling them we're the best team out there if we just give it everything. This team hasn't given it everything in a long time.
Yeah.
They haven't had a coach out there who inspires. And I know that giving it all isn't going to get you the results. But guess what? We also had a coach that understood this league is 20 years in the past. This league is 20 years in the past for about 50 years already. We have been stuck in the same old ways since Mejia Barón had his group of lackeys just learn from him and then keep spewing it out for years
Yeah.
and years to come. Like the guy was an amazing coach in his time. We
Yeah.
can't stay 50 years in the past. We
Hmm.
can't think, oh, a 4-4-2 is our old reliable. A 4-4-2 is all we're gonna do. No, there's other formations out there. You can look at the Premier League and then see that coaches are just changing formations constantly, even in teams that just aren't working out. Like in Arsenal, you see Mikel Arteta when things don't work out, he changes it up. He does
Yeah.
something different. He puts a player in. He does something that is just different. Guys have to try different things out. But I mean, the Mexican League just doesn't have that, and we hadn't had it for a long time. And it was going to keep Mexico in the position that they're in. We're not going to develop into any potential World Cup winning squad if the team that's playing with 100% Mexican talent isn't going to produce anything but 10 years of bad results and one championship.
Yeah. And the thing is, like Chivas later this year, let's say they go to Liguilla and they win it. Let's say, I would be obviously very happy. I want Chivas to win another title, but I don't think it's sustainable because we've seen it. Chivas win championships and they implode. They sell their best players, they get rid of their good coach, and we go through misery again.
A lack of intelligence at the top, like you said.
Yeah, and we can't keep doing that, you guys. Like something has to change, and uh, my opinion is that if we adopt this new expanded tradition, it would possibly be easier to form competitive squads. Now, you would still have to be smart. You can't be like Atlas. Atlas, they've had foreigners the whole time, but they really, really suck. But I think it's in their identity to suck. And it's Chivas' identity is to win. The 2017 championship, we had a pretty good squad, but it wasn't the best in the league. It wasn't the best in the league by any means, but we still won it. Why? Because, and this happens to Chivas, like we rarely make Liguilla, but when we make Liguilla, we typically have a good performance in Liguilla, typically. And often, we win it. What happened in 2017, we made Liguilla, we haven't made it ever since. In 2006, we made it in repechaje and then we won it. So it's like Chivas has a winning identity. We need to change something fast so that we can, before that winning identity fades away, because it's fading away and we've seen it. In the 2010s, it was terrible, and it's fading away. And eventually, we won't have that identity anymore. So I don't know. I still believe. Again, I still believe it can be done with all Mexicans. but you have to be really smart. And I'm tired of waiting for them to get it right.
I think instead of people, if people already get riled up and start hating us, by all means do it. I
Mm-hmm.
don't have a problem. But if you do, you're clearly not listening because Rigo's repeated it multiple times. It can be done.
You can.
We just are asking for an acknowledgement of the failures being done at every single level. The fact that Organista hasn't gotten 5 minutes on the field is just it's a perfect example of why this team is where it is. A guy like Puente should have been moved into the first team for a shot the first couple of games that he started performing amazingly at every level. Mind you, this kid is 17, playing against 20-year-olds and making them look like kids.
Yeah, it's
You know,
unfortunate what happened to him, and they gave him a chance at Tapatio, but I think it was a bad idea. In retrospect, he got injured and now he's out for 7 months. But I don't think it was a good idea to give him the chance at Tapatio because Tapatio is kind of in shambles too because the coaching is terrible over there too. So it wouldn't have been a good opportunity for him either way. It's unfortunate that he got injured. But yeah, like we don't give the opportunities to the right players. We keep players on the starting 11 that shouldn't be there. Like there's no reason in the world for Molina to still be there. There
correct.
no there's no reason in the world for Brizuela to still be a guaranteed starter. It makes no sense. He doesn't produce.
What I've
So,
also heard as a criticism towards us, I've actually heard it specifically towards us, that we seem to complain about Chivas coaching, but we never complain about the players. And it's like that's not true. We complain about the players that we're supposed to complain about, and we complain
yeah.
about the coach every single time they hire a new coach because every single hire that they've made since Matias Almeida is taking a
Yeah.
lateral step. I'm not going to get any closer to my goal if I'm taking lateral steps. I need to take
Yeah.
steps forward or take steps backwards to notice where I am. And that's not what Chivas is doing. They're on the merry-go-round of Mexican coaches.
Well, yeah. The thing is, like, if you talk about players, you have to acknowledge the coach at hand, and we've had terrible coaching since Almeida, so you can't really ignore that. But we do talk a lot about the players. Like I like Vega. I think he's a great talent. But I on Twitter, I will tweet when he makes a mistake. Chapito, I love Chapito, but he made a stupid slide tackle. It was unnecessary. You could say it wasn't a foul. There's an argument for that, but there's no reason to even go for the tackle, in my opinion. You just watch Cabecita. You make sure he doesn't get a
Cut,
cross in, and that's it.
cut in, yeah.
Get a cross in or cut in, and that's it. It was completely unnecessary to make that. Brizuela, I'll talk all day about his mistakes, but I'll also acknowledge when he does something good. Like he tracks back a lot. I appreciate that about him. He's good at dribbling past players, but what good is that if you can't make the right decision in the end? It's like,
What I've never understood is how Brizuela could be so great at tracking back
mhm,
and being so great from starting runs from behind in his own half, and
mhm,
they've never thought to themselves, "Wow, this would make for a great right back."
yeah.
Only one guy that ever thought about that, and he was fired and treated like trash. But apparently, there's guys out there that know just it wouldn't make sense. He's a center midfielder now. Yeah, that's what we
Mhm,
need. A center midfielder that loses the ball, can't pass to save his life when it comes to being in situations in which he's under pressure and it's easier to just pass it than to do a whole dribble to try and get past them, you know? Like
mhm,
you should be smarter. If you're going to convert a player into another position, play to his strengths. Play to
yeah.
the guy's strengths. Like this guy's amazing at tracking back. So make him competition for Chapito. There should be no reason this guy's becoming Beltran's competition. He's not that type of player. He's
Yeah.
not that type of player that's going to win you the midfield.
Yeah, there's just inexplicable lineups. I didn't understand Vucetich's lineup, and I mean that's another argument for this thing that I'm proposing about expanding the tradition. It's like with Almeida, we were able to get decent results and then make good runs in Liguilla and win the championship. But we became too dependent on him. And
Hmm.
so right now, Chivas desperately need a good coach. And if they get a good coach that is smart, he'll be able to lift this team up and possibly win a championship. But then we become dependent on him. You know what I mean? So if that coach leaves, the guy that comes in is probably going to be shitty because that's what Chivas does. And so then we'll go right back down. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, and also the big problem there would be the dependency on the first team results. You can't be an all Mexican team depending on just the results of the first team. I've never thought about it this way, but the Ajax way of thinking and the Barcelona way of thinking when it came to their youth teams wasn't about results. It was about the style and
mm-hmm.
about just the sense of progressing, the sense that your players are progressing in a way that's going to make them into better footballers at the highest level.
Yeah,
Chivas doesn't do that. They have terrible all their youth leagues to the point
uh-huh.
that guys that are complete stars aren't even given a shot in the first team because they're just playing them in terrible systems. Like this shouldn't be happening. Yeah, we get results in the sub 17, sub 20, but once they get to Tapatio, what's going on there? Oh wait, we
Yeah,
have a shit coach. What
yeah,
what's that going to help? Like we need a good structure to
yeah.
bring players through if we're going to be dependent on just the Mexican talent.
Yeah, I watch the Chivas sub 20 games sometimes, and I see the results, and I honestly could not care less about how their results.
Yeah.
I don't care if sub 20 wins the title. Who gives a fuck? Who cares? You, it if we're not getting players out of it that immediately can adapt to first division. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to prepare these players for first division, not for winning championships at the sub-20 level, because that's just I don't know. It's just
And
really
at
dumb.
that point, it becomes a disconnect between the first team and the teams feeding it. I mean, the sub 20, if the sub 20 isn't playing the same style, which they're not, because throughout the whole Chivas youth system, they have an ideology to attack. They're in a team. They're a team that attacks and is consistently pushing the teams back into their own half. Then they get to the first team, and for the last 5 years, no, well, not 5 years, 3 years, we've been playing under defensive coaches that tell you, I need you to defend. I need you to defend this 0-0 death. Wait, you don't want me to get out there and get the win? Why win if we can get the one point? I feel like
That's what it
that's
feels
been our
like.
coaches for the past 3 years. I'd rather have a guy out there trying to risk it for the win than to try and save their job for 1 point.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I don't know, man. Like the whole everything for Chivas is kind of um at the worst possible scenario because the league it demands immediate results. Every year, every 6 months, it starts over, and the table, you have to start from scratch. So it's a really bad combination of factors that make it extremely difficult to be a Chivas player. It's a lot of pressure. If you make a mistake, it's easy to feel down. Um, like Macias, he's been missing clear chances, and I think now at this point he's just completely defeated, and he looks apathetic. You know what I
I'll tell
mean?
you this: Macias does a lot of the damage that he warrants a lot of the hate and criticism that he gets because he's out there doing interviews,
Yeah,
out there commenting on promise pages that care more about getting players to Europe than they do about results for teams in Mexico. Well, guess what? I could care less if La Selección has 50 players in Europe, if Chivas is getting all the shit ones I don't care. I don't want to sell our players for $5 when we can get 20 million. I'm not going to do that. But Macias apparently wants that because he cares more about getting to Europe than anything else. He wants to go out there and give interviews and talk about how he doesn't feel pressure and all this. But then when he's giving terrible results, I thought you didn't feel pressure. What's going
Yeah.
on?
He's been missing clear chances. And the thing is, Macias talked about it. He said, the Liga makes players that want to go to Europe, they have like $15 million price tags, and so it's a lot harder. And then he said that in South America, you could pick up 5 players for 500,000 or some stupid shit like that. He said, and it's a lie, first of all. But you can't get players for cheaper in South America. But the thing is, those players in South America, guess what? They're not earning as much as you, Macias. So what do you want? Like you aren't complaining about your high salary, right? So if a club is going to give you a high salary, they're going to put a high price tag on you, dude. That's just how it works. It's like, what do you want?
I always see players complain about their price tags, but I don't see any Argentinian players coming in and complaining about their price tags because guess what? They warrant the price tag, and they also acknowledge that their $20 million price tag is coming with a fat salary. I didn't hear Guido complaining about how hard it was to leave Tigres to go to Europe. My man, this guy dominated the league, and he made everyone look like children in the midfield. That's why he went to Europe. He didn't go to Europe because he looked promising. It was because he delivered results.
Yeah.
The guy was doing what he was paid to do. Macias is getting paid and isn't doing what he's paid to do. You have to perform. You have to warrant those price tags.
Yeah.
If not, lower your salary, my man.
Yeah,
just don't
exactly.
ask for raises. Bisuto just left. You didn't see him asking for raises. You didn't see other guys. I see these guys complain, but I don't see them doing what other players around the world do. They leave on freeze because they don't sign million-dollar contracts with clubs that can play it. Why do Argentinians leave to Europe? Because they're not over there going to Boca and going to River and asking for hundreds and thousands of dollars a week. You are.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, River and Boca and all those Argentinian teams, they can't afford it, right? So maybe, but that's the bad. It's kind of like the price we pay as for having a wealthy league. You know what I mean? Because our league is wealthy, we can't afford to pay players a high wage. So then obviously their price tag is going to go up because what club wouldn't do that? It's like it's a logical thing, right? If you're paying him a good salary, you're going to put a high price tag on him. It's like, it's obvious.
That I would want to see the last player that left or the last 10 because Macias, obviously, he's probably not going to see this, but if he was to see it, I want you to send me a list of the last 10 players to go to Europe from Argentina, from Uruguay, from wherever you want in South America and make it in Europe in the best teams in the world and become these top class players because they're not going for $16,000. Players are going from Argentina, and Brazil for top dollar when they're top talents. Yeah, you have these cases in which mid-tier talent get out to Europe, but I mean, what's the point of getting mid-tier talent into Europe? The point is to get our best players into Europe.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other podcast there too. Yeah. So I just looked at the time. We went pretty long. So I'm gonna sign out for now. We talked about a bunch of different stuff. If you disagree with us, go ahead and write us on Twitter. You probably will disagree with us, which that's fine. I like reading people that disagree with us. You could follow me at Rigo el Chiva. You probably already know that because you probably saw this video from there. And dude, it's Danny. We're going to sign out. All right, you guys. Peace out.
All right, guys.